Think about your life for a moment. Imagine where you are today, and then imagine where you could be 10 years from now. What does your life look like? Are you living with purpose, or are you simply going day by day, reacting to whatever comes your way? The truth is, most people live in the present without really thinking about the future. They focus on immediate comfort, instant gratification, and short-term pleasures, and in doing so, they slowly drift away from the life they truly want to create. But the 1%, the people who achieve extraordinary success in life, they think differently. They think long-term, but they act in the short term with precision and purpose. Let me explain this with a story. Imagine a farmer planting a mango tree. The farmer wakes up every morning, waters the sapling, nurtures the soil, protects it from pests, and patiently waits. He doesn't expect a tree full of fruits the next week. In fact, it will take years before the tree bears its first fruit. Yet, he continues every single day because he believes in the long-term vision. He knows that small actions repeated consistently will eventually lead to a bountiful harvest. Now, compare that to a person who eats all the seeds today because they are hungry. They get instant gratification, but they lose the opportunity for a lifetime of abundance. This is exactly the difference between the 99% and the 1%. The 1% are the farmers of their own lives. They invest in the future while managing the present wisely. Thinking long-term is not just about wealth or career. It is about every aspect of your life, your health, relationships, personal growth, and happiness. When you start thinking long-term, you begin to ask yourself the right questions. What kind of person do I want to become? What habits today will help me live my best life tomorrow? How can I plant seeds today that'll bloom years from now? It's a mindset that shifts your focus from immediate comfort to lasting fulfillment. And this doesn't mean you ignore the present. It means you act in the present with the future in mind. You make decisions today not based on temporary pleasure, but on lasting value. Now, here's the critical part. Long-term thinking is useless without short-term action. Dreaming about your ideal life is beautiful, but it is meaningless if you don't take concrete steps every day. Think about the author who dreams of writing a best-selling book. If all she does is imagine herself on stage at a book launch, but never writes a single page, nothing will happen. The 1% break their long-term vision into actionable steps that they can take today, this week, this month. They understand the power of small, consistent actions. Every page written, every lesson learned, every tiny habit built. These are the building blocks of a remarkable life. Let me give you a practical example. Suppose you want to achieve financial independence. Thinking long-term means imagining a life free from debt, a life where you have the freedom to pursue your passions, to help others, and to live with peace of mind. But to reach that vision, you can't just hope for wealth to fall into your lap. You must take short-term actions like budgeting wisely, saving consistently, learning new skills, and making smart investments. Each small step may seem insignificant today, but over time they compound, and the results are astonishing. This is the essence of the 1% mindset: balancing vision with action, patience with persistence, and dreaming with doing. Another beautiful aspect of long-term thinking is that it gives you resilience in the face of challenges. Life is unpredictable. You will face failures, setbacks, and disappointments. But when you have a long-term vision, these obstacles become temporary detours rather than permanent defeats. You understand that success is a journey, not a single event. The 1% don't give up when they encounter failure. They view it as feedback, an opportunity to course correct, and a reminder that their tree is still growing. And here's a subtle but powerful truth. Thinking long term allows you to live with clarity and purpose. When your actions are guided by a bigger picture, trivial distractions lose their grip on you. You stop chasing every shiny object that comes your way. You stop comparing yourself to others who may seem successful in the short term. Instead, you focus on your own growth, your own journey, your own tree. You invest your energy where it truly matters, knowing that the best rewards often require patience and persistence. In essence, thinking long term and acting short term is like being an architect of your life. You visualize the magnificent building you want to create, and then you lay one brick at a time with precision and care. You may not see the full structure immediately, but with every brick, you are getting closer to the masterpiece you envisioned. And the beauty is, every small action you take today, no matter how insignificant it feels, is a step toward that extraordinary life you dream of. So, if you want to think like the 1%, start planting your seeds today. Invest in yourself, cultivate your skills, nurture your relationships, and make small, intentional choices. Patience and persistence will do the rest. Remember, a life of purpose and abundance is not built overnight. It is built day by day, moment by moment, action by action. And when you finally look back, you will see that every small step, every moment of discipline, and every choice guided by a long-term vision created the life you always imagined. Imagine walking into a bank. You see people depositing money, some taking loans, some withdrawing. But imagine if the bank wasn't a building, but your own life, and the currency wasn't money, but time, energy, and effort. What would you deposit first? Many of us are quick to invest in things outside ourselves. Fancy gadgets, cars, houses, impressing others. But we forget the most important investment ourselves. The truth is, the most powerful, life-changing, and high-return investment you can make is in your own mind, body, and spirit. If you don't invest in yourself first, no matter how much you accumulate externally, your life will always feel incomplete. The 1% understand this. They know that before they can create wealth, happiness, or influence, they must first enrich themselves. Investing in yourself means understanding that your greatest asset isn't your job, your money, or even your network. It is you. Your skills, your knowledge, your emotional intelligence, your habits, and your health. These are the things that compound over time and determine the trajectory of your life. Think about a tree. If the roots are strong, the tree can weather any storm. If the roots are weak, no matter how tall it grows, it will eventually fall. Your personal growth is your root system. When you invest in yourself, by learning, reflecting, meditating, exercising, and cultivating positive habits, you are strengthening the roots that will support everything else in your life. Let me share a story. There was once a young man who dreamed of building a successful career. He worked long hours, chased promotions, and tried to impress his bosses. But he constantly felt empty and exhausted. One day, a mentor asked him a simple question: What have you done for yourself today? The young man realized he had been spending all his time investing in external achievements while neglecting his own growth, health, and emotional well being. From that day, he began to invest in himself, reading books, attending workshops, meditating, exercising, and reflecting on his goals. Within a few years, not only did he become successful, but he also became fulfilled, balanced, and resilient. The external success came as a natural outcome of the internal investment. Investing in yourself also means prioritizing knowledge over instant gratification. Most people are tempted to spend hours on entertainment, gossip, or scrolling endlessly through social media. These may feel good for a few minutes, but they don't grow your mind or your future. The 1% spend a significant portion of their time learning, reading books, attending seminars, listening to podcasts, and seeking mentors. They understand that skills, wisdom, and perspective are more valuable than temporary pleasure. The mind is like a garden. If you plant weeds of distraction, negativity, and ignorance, that is what will grow. But if you cultivate the seeds of knowledge, creativity, and curiosity, the harvest will be extraordinary. Another critical aspect of investing in yourself is health. The 1% realize that no amount of money or success can replace a healthy mind and body. Eating well, exercising regularly, getting enough sleep, and managing stress are not optional. They are investments with lifelong dividends. Think about it. If your health fails, everything else becomes meaningless. Time, energy, and focus are your currency. And without a healthy body and mind, you cannot spend them wisely. Investing in yourself means respecting your body, your energy, and your mental clarity as sacred resources. Emotional and spiritual growth is equally important. Investing in yourself is not just about acquiring skills or knowledge, it's about cultivating resilience, empathy, mindfulness, and purpose. It's about learning to respond to challenges calmly, to forgive quickly, to love deeply, and to stay anchored amidst life's storms. The 1% understand that emotional intelligence and inner peace create a foundation for lasting success and meaningful relationships. Without this, even the wealthiest and most accomplished person may feel hollow and restless. Investing in yourself first is also about taking responsibility for your own life. It is about understanding that no one else is going to hand you the tools you need to succeed. You must take the initiative to learn, grow, and improve. You must create your own opportunities rather than waiting for luck or external validation. Every hour you spend developing a skill, every book you read, every habit you build, and every reflection you do is a deposit in your personal bank. A deposit that pays dividends far beyond what money alone can buy. Here's another story to consider. A student once complained that he didn't have opportunities, connections, or resources. His teacher smiled and said, "The best investment you can make is in yourself. If you grow, the world will grow with you. If you improve your mind, your skills, and your character, doors will open that you never imagined existed." That student took the advice to heart. He studied relentlessly, practiced his craft daily, and nurtured his mental, emotional, and physical well-being. Years later, he became a leader not because the world handed him opportunities, but because he had become the kind of person who naturally attracts opportunity. Investing in yourself first doesn't mean being selfish. It means being wise. You cannot pour from an empty cup. If you are constantly giving to others while neglecting your own growth, energy, and happiness, you will eventually burn out. But when you strengthen yourself first, everything you give to the world becomes more powerful, more meaningful, and more sustainable. So, start today, read, learn, exercise, meditate, reflect, and nurture your mind, body, and spirit. Take care of yourself, invest in your skills, and build your character. The small actions you take now, consistently and intentionally, will compound over time, creating a life of abundance, resilience, and purpose. Remember, the 1% know that the greatest return on investment comes from the person you are becoming, not just the things you are acquiring. When you invest in yourself first, everything else in life aligns effortlessly, and the life you dream of becomes not just possible, but inevitable. Let me ask you something. How often do you wait to feel motivated before taking action? How often have you told yourself, I'll start tomorrow, or I'll do it when I feel like it? The truth is, motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes like the wind. Some days you feel inspired, some days you don't. Relying solely on motivation is like waiting for the sun to shine before you decide to plant seeds. You may wait forever and nothing will grow. The 1% understand a simple but powerful truth: discipline is far more reliable than motivation. Motivation may spark action, but discipline sustains it. Discipline is what keeps you moving forward, even when you don't feel like it, when the excitement has faded, when life throws challenges your way. Let me illustrate this with a story. There was a young musician who dreamed of becoming a great pianist. Every time she sat at the piano, she hoped for inspiration to strike. Some days she played beautifully because she felt motivated. Other days she skipped practice because she didn't feel like it. As a result, her progress was slow, inconsistent, and frustrating. One day, her teacher told her, "Don't wait for motivation. Decide on a schedule, commit to it, and stick to it. If you practice consistently, the results will come, regardless of how you feel today." At first, she struggled. It felt rigid. But over time, the discipline of showing up every day, rain or shine, transformed her skill. She became not only a better pianist, but also a person who understood the power of persistence over fleeting feelings. That is the essence of the 1% mindset: discipline over motivation. Discipline is what separates the dreamers from the achievers. Motivation is the spark that lights the fire. Discipline is the fuel that keeps it burning. Think about an athlete training for the Olympics. Motivation may get them excited at the beginning of the season, but it is discipline that makes them wake up at 4 a.m., push through pain, endure fatigue, and practice relentlessly for years. Motivation can inspire you for a day. Discipline carries you for a lifetime. Discipline is also about consistency in small actions. The 1% don't wait to feel like meditating, exercising, or reading. They build habits. They understand that small actions repeated consistently lead to extraordinary results. The results are rarely instant. You won't notice dramatic change after one day of effort. But if you discipline yourself to act daily, the compounding effect over months and years is remarkable. Discipline turns ordinary people into extraordinary achievers. It builds resilience, character, and mastery, which no amount of motivation alone can provide. Let's bring it closer to everyday life. Suppose you want to lose weight, improve your health, or write a book. If you wait to feel motivated each morning, your progress will be erratic. Some days you will show up, some days you won't. But if you create a disciplined schedule, committing to the process regardless of feelings, you will see consistent progress. Discipline is the bridge between goals and achievement. It transforms desire into action and action into results. Discipline also strengthens your mind. Life is full of distractions, temptations, and challenges that test your focus and patience. The 1% understand that discipline is not punishment, it is freedom. When you train yourself to stay committed to your priorities, you gain control over your impulses rather than letting impulses control you. You learn to delay gratification, resist easy temptations, and focus on what truly matters. The more disciplined you become, the more power you have over your own life. Here's another way to look at it: motivation is external, discipline is internal. Motivation depends on circumstances. An inspiring speech, a powerful book, or a moving quote can spark it, but it can vanish the moment circumstances change. Discipline comes from within. It is a choice you make again and again, regardless of your feelings or external conditions. The 1% don't rely on the highs of motivation. They cultivate the quiet, steady strength of discipline, which keeps them moving even in the face of adversity. Discipline is also deeply connected to time management. Many people waste hours each day waiting to feel like working, scrolling through social media, or postponing important tasks. The 1% understand that time is their most valuable resource, and discipline ensures that every moment is invested wisely. By following routines, sticking to priorities, and resisting distractions, they accomplish far more than someone who relies solely on sporadic bursts of motivation. And here's the beautiful paradox: the more disciplined you become, the easier life feels. You don't have to constantly push or fight yourself. The habits, routines, and structures you build through discipline carry you forward almost effortlessly. Motivation may give you excitement, but discipline gives you freedom, mastery, and peace of mind. When you are disciplined, you no longer depend on fleeting feelings. You have built a life that sustains itself through consistent action. Finally, discipline is not about rigidity or being harsh on yourself. It is about commitment and love for your future self. It is about showing up even when it is hard, because you care about the life you are creating. The 1% understand that every small disciplined action, repeated daily, is an investment in the person they are becoming. Motivation will fade, inspiration will waver, but discipline, quiet, persistent, and unwavering, will carry you to your goals, your purpose, and your dreams. So, remember this simple truth: motivation may start the journey, but discipline completes it. Choose to act, choose to persist, choose to stay committed, even when you don't feel like it. Build habits, honor your commitments, and invest in the strength of your will. Over time, you will discover that the life you dreamed of is not the result of luck, talent, or motivation. It is the inevitable outcome of unwavering discipline. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to naturally rise, thrive, and succeed, while others struggle despite having similar talents and opportunities? Often, the difference isn't just skills, knowledge, or luck. It's the people they surround themselves with. The truth is, human beings are social creatures, And our environment, particularly the people we spend the most time with, shapes our thoughts, habits, and ultimately our destiny. The 1% understand this deeply. They know that to become extraordinary, they must be intentional about their inner circle. Surrounding yourself with the right people is not just a suggestion. It is one of the most powerful decisions you can make in your life. Think about it this way: energy is contagious. You've likely experienced this. You enter a room where everyone is complaining, pessimistic, or negative, and almost immediately you feel drained, anxious, or distracted. Conversely, when you spend time with people who are positive, ambitious, and supportive, you feel energized, inspired, and motivated. The people around you influence your mindset, your habits, and even your possibilities. This is why the 1% choose their companions carefully. They don't just allow anyone into their circle. They consciously select those who uplift, challenge, and inspire them. Let me tell you a story. There was a young entrepreneur who had big dreams, but struggled to make progress. He spent most of his time with friends who were constantly complaining about life, making excuses, and chasing short-term pleasures. After months of effort, he realized he was not moving forward. One day, he met a mentor who told him, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you want to rise, you must change your circle." The young man took this advice seriously. He started attending networking events, sought out mentors, and surrounded himself with people who were ambitious, ethical, and growth-oriented. Within a few years, his life transformed, his ideas flourished, his confidence grew, and his opportunities multiplied. By choosing the right people, he had changed the trajectory of his life. Surrounding yourself with the right people doesn't mean cutting everyone out or becoming selfish. It means being intentional about your relationships and understanding the influence they have on you. The 1% don't waste energy on toxic relationships, constant negativity, or people who drain their time and energy. They invest in relationships that challenge them to grow, hold them accountable, and inspire them to be better versions of themselves. This is not about elitism. It's about creating an environment where your growth is nurtured rather than hindered. The right people act as mirrors and guides. They celebrate your successes without jealousy, offer constructive criticism without judgment, and challenge you to think bigger. Imagine trying to climb a mountain alone versus with experienced, supportive climbers by your side. The journey becomes safer, faster, and more meaningful. Similarly, in life, having mentors, peers, and friends who align with your values and aspirations amplifies your potential. They provide perspective when you feel stuck, encouragement when you feel low, and wisdom when the path seems unclear. Equally important, the right people influence your habits. Have you ever noticed that people often adopt the routines, mindset, and attitudes of those they spend the most time with? If you're surrounded by procrastinators, pessimists, or people who give up easily, chances are their habits will subtly influence you. Conversely, spending time with disciplined, optimistic, and ambitious individuals inspires you to mirror their habits. The 1% understand that excellence is contagious. By immersing themselves in environments that model growth, integrity, and purpose, they absorb these qualities and integrate them into their own lives. Let's consider another story. A student wanted to excel academically, but his friends spent most of their time partying and complaining about teachers and exams. He realized that despite his best intentions, he too was being dragged into their habits, losing focus and motivation. One day, he decided to join a study group of high performing students who were focused, curious, and supportive. Gradually, his mindset shifted, his habits improved, and his performance soared. He didn't become better overnight, but being surrounded by the right people created an environment where excellence was the norm, not the exception. The 1% also understand that the right people bring balance to their lives. Life is unpredictable and challenges are inevitable. Surrounding yourself with people who are kind, empathetic, and wise provides emotional support during difficult times. They help you navigate failures without losing faith, provide perspective during stressful moments, and remind you of your purpose when you feel lost. Life is a journey, and having companions who uplift and stabilize you is invaluable. Finally, surrounding yourself with the right people is an act of self-respect and vision. It is a declaration that you value your growth, your time, and your potential. It is saying, I will not allow negativity, mediocrity, or complacency to dictate my future. I choose relationships that inspire greatness, accountability, and joy. The 1% are not isolated or arrogant. They are intentional. They invest in people who align with their values, challenge their thinking, and help them grow, while also being that positive influence for others. So, look around yourself. Who are the people you spend the most time with? Are they lifting you up or holding you back? Are they helping you become the person you aspire to be, or are they keeping you stuck in comfort and mediocrity? Remember, the people in your life can either be the wind beneath your wings or the anchor that keeps you grounded. Choose wisely, surround yourself with those who inspire, challenge, and support you, and watch as your life transforms in ways you never imagined. When you align yourself with the right people, you are not just creating connections, you are creating an ecosystem for your own growth, success, and happiness. Have you ever noticed how most people react to failure? They feel ashamed, defeated, or even paralyzed by it. A missed opportunity, a mistake, a rejection, or a setback often becomes the story they tell themselves. I'm not good enough. This was a sign I should give up. Or maybe I'm just unlucky. And when we think this way, failure becomes a wall instead of a stepping stone. But the 1% think differently. They understand that failure is not the end of the road. It is a compass, a teacher, a guide. They embrace failure as feedback, a signal telling them you're on a journey. Here is what you need to learn to get closer to your goal. Let me share a story. There was a young inventor who dreamed of creating a machine that could change the world. He spent months working tirelessly, pouring his heart and soul into the project. When he finally tested it, it didn't work. And when he presented it, it was ridiculed by others. Most people would have given up, feeling crushed and defeated. But this inventor looked at the failure and said, "What is this teaching me? What can I improve?" He studied every mistake, adjusted his design, and tried again and again. Each failure was a lesson, each setback a feedback loop guiding him toward improvement. Eventually, his persistence paid off. He succeeded not because he never failed, but because he learned to embrace failure as a friend rather than an enemy. That is the mindset of the 1%, seeing failure as feedback, not as defeat. Failure teaches us humility and perspective. When we fail, we are forced to reflect, to analyze, and to understand what went wrong. We are forced to confront our limitations, our assumptions, and our strategies. And in this process, we grow. Without failure, we remain stagnant, trapped in comfort and illusion. The 1% understand that failure is not a reflection of our worth, it is a reflection of our current approach. Change the approach, and success becomes possible. Think about it in terms of learning. No child learns to walk without falling. Every stumble, every tumble, every scraped knee is feedback. It teaches balance, strengthens muscles, and builds confidence. Imagine if a child, after the first fall, decided to give up, they would never walk. In life, the principle is the same. Each failure teaches us something essential if we are willing to pay attention. The 1% have trained themselves to extract lessons from every mistake, using failure as a teacher rather than a judge. Another important aspect of embracing failure as feedback is removing the fear of failure. Most people avoid risks because they are terrified of failing. They don't start their own business, don't ask for that promotion, don't speak up, and don't pursue their dreams because of fear. But the 1% take risks precisely because they understand that failure is part of growth. They know that every failure carries wisdom, and every setback is an opportunity to refine their approach. Fear of failure is temporary. The lessons it provides are lasting. Let me give you another example. Thomas Edison, one of the greatest inventors of all time, famously said that he didn't fail 1,000 times while inventing the light bulb. He discovered 1,000 ways that didn't work. Each failure was a piece of feedback, guiding him closer to the solution. Imagine if he had stopped at failure number 10 or 50, the world might still be in darkness. The 1% adopt this perspective. Failures are not roadblocks. They are milestones on the journey to success. Embracing failure also requires emotional resilience. It's not easy to fail, to face criticism, or to be disappointed. But the 1% cultivate the inner strength to withstand these challenges. They understand that their self-worth is not defined by outcomes, but by effort, learning, and growth. When they fail, they acknowledge the emotions, reflect on the lessons, and move forward with courage. They treat failure as temporary and constructive, rather than permanent and destructive. Failure also encourages creativity and innovation. When something doesn't work, it forces you to think differently, to experiment, and to find new solutions. The 1% are not afraid to pivot, adapt, and iterate. They see obstacles as opportunities to innovate. In fact, some of the greatest breakthroughs in history have come from people who embraced failure as feedback rather than fearing it. Every no they encountered, every mistake they made, was a clue guiding them toward a better path. Finally, embracing failure builds character. It teaches patience, perseverance, humility, and gratitude. It strengthens your ability to cope with adversity and equips you with wisdom that cannot be learned in comfort or success. The 1% know that life is a series of experiments, and failure is an essential part of this laboratory. By embracing failure, they transform challenges into opportunities, setbacks into lessons, and disappointments into fuel for growth. So, the next time you encounter failure, pause and ask yourself, what is this teaching me? How can I improve? What can I do differently? See failure not as a verdict, but as feedback, a compass pointing you toward growth, mastery, and eventual success. Remember, the 1% do not fear failure, they welcome it, learn from it, and let it guide them toward a life of purpose, achievement, and fulfillment. Every failure is not the end of the story, it is the prologue to your greatest chapter yet.